Hello everyone, welcome to the latest Binalyze AIR release preview. We're calling this version 1.7.40. A bit of housekeeping before we start. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you will see that there is a questions tab and a chat tab. You can submit any questions and feedback in that area, and we'll deal with questions at the end. In the chat, you will also see that we have created a Binalyze Discord server for more technical discussion on digital and enterprise forensics. There is an invite to that server again in the chat already, so we'd love to see you over on that channel as well. So please jump over there and join when you get a chance. And finally, if you are looking for support from Binalyze, the two principal ways of getting support are via email at support@binalyze.com and via the website at binalyze.com/support. So today we are continuing to iterate and innovate at pace. It's just, I think, 3.5 weeks since we released the previous version. So the engineering team have been working extremely hard. We're delivering on all of our ambitious roadmap items for 2021, so you can expect fairly regular invites to these updates. Today, for 1.7.40, we have 5 main highlights. The first one is a continued rollout of our Linux support, streamlined and web-based Air console install, enterprise-grade roles and permissions, bulk actions on endpoints to save a bunch of time, and IBM QRadar integration for triggers and automation. The new release is available right now at binalyze.com/air. And with that short introduction, I will hand you over to Emre Tinaz-Tepe, our founder and CEO, and he will demo those features for you.
Thanks so much, Steve. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today. Let's go to the demo quickly, and then we can get the questions and answers. So in this release, as promised in the previous version, we have extended our support for Linux. Previous version started with the acquisition profiles for Linux. And starting from this version, now we have triage support for Linux as well. The experience is pretty much similar. So what you do is when you go to a Linux machine, clicking that triage button takes you to the rules. And selecting it, you can quickly start the triage on all your Linux endpoints. And this can be done, as we mentioned previously, this can be done individually for a single endpoint, or you can perform the same actions by going to all your endpoints from here. Or if you tag an endpoint, including the Linux ones, you can also perform the same action using this triage action here. And there's also another update for the extended Linux support. Previously, in the previous version, we only supported system evidence acquisition from Linux. To give a bit more information about that, so when you click new profile, now in this Linux tab, we already had these system evidence types, and now we also support custom content profiles for Linux. And the way to use it is you create an acquisition profile. For Windows, you select all of them here. So the evidence list, artifact list, and custom content profiles. And for Linux, after selecting the system evidence type, you can come here and add a new evidence here. And adding some wildcards into this path will let you collect whatever you need from all your Linux endpoints. So the second one is, as you might know, the previous versions of AIR came with a desktop installer, and now we are changing it. And the reason we are announcing this is we are rapidly coming closer to creating a SaaS product of AIR, and that's the reason we have added support for a web-based installer. So from now on, when you install the management console on one of your servers, in just 3 steps, you'll be able to complete the installation and then start using AIR, start deploying the endpoints to your network. So the first step is writing the license key. In the next step, you provide the console address. So this is the address you'll be accessing management console. And then in the last step, you create the user, and then you're good to go. You can start using AIR. This is especially important for the SaaS version that we are currently working on now, and it will come with great features, especially for MSSPs, just like being able to support multiple organizations. So using just one single AIR console instance, they'll be able to provide support to multiple customers. And the third feature today, we already had roles feature on AIR. So when you go to settings, so when you go to users and roles, we already had roles for the previous version, but it was a bit limited because, like with great power comes great responsibility. So now in this version, we have roles. Out of box, we have a number of roles here, but you can create any type of role with specific privileges. As an example, in this version, we have over 70 different privileges. So let's say you would like to create a role for security analyst. Analyst level 1. And for this role, you want the analyst to be able to perform an acquisition. There's no need to view the audit log because, as you know, we are providing extensive auditing of all the actions performed in our product. And then it can also include the endpoint tagging. Maybe you may ask it to not require endpoint deletion, like tag deletion. And these information tags here notifies you that if any of those privileges has a dependency, then these are automatically enabled. So when you enable this, there is some other like privilege in this list that is automatically enabled. So just for information. And when you save this, now you have a quick summary of the privileges that this role will include. Clicking save. Now we have it. And when you create a new user by going to Users tab, now you can quickly select the role. And that way you can limit the capabilities of that person in AIR. The fourth one is bulk actions. Thanks a lot for this feature request to Babak Mirza-Hosseini from Greenstone Financial Services. So previously, when you visited endpoint stack, endpoints page, what we had is when you'd like to perform an action on a number of endpoints, on a group of endpoints, you are required to click them one by one. For example, if you'd like to search for some endpoints, like applying a filter here, it was a bit harder to perform some group actions. Now, starting from this version, you can quickly select a number of endpoints from here. And when there is a selection, this button gets activated. And then by clicking here, you can perform some actions, or you can quickly add a tag for these endpoints. As an example, investigation ID 2. And tagging them, you immediately have a new tag here. Now, from now on, you can click on the tags and perform some actions on only these endpoints. And this is especially useful because this way you can freely manage the endpoints you have. And the final feature in this version is the integration with QRadar. As you might know, we already have integration with any webhook source for almost 2 years. But now we are adding out-of-box support for these products. And as CM, when it comes to QRadar, it's one of the most widely used CMs on the market. So the way to integrate AIR with any CM on the market is made possible by the feature we call triggers. The first step of performing this integration is creating a new trigger. You give it a name. So let's say QRadar profile 1. And then we have some parsers here. And if you need further help, it's really easy, but you may need some help from our knowledge base. So if you click on this URL, it quickly takes you to the integration page. And everything is documented here. So in just 5 minutes, you can integrate it with QRadar. So let's go back to the triggers. We create a new trigger, and then we select an acquisition profile. So in this one, let's say you would like to get the browsing history. And as you know, CMs may generate a lot of alerts for the same endpoint. So if you have hundreds of alerts from an endpoint, AIR takes this into the consideration, and it only responds to the first alert. So whenever your CM or SOAR solution creates an alert for an endpoint, our solution immediately responds to that alert. It's just like having a 24/7 available first responder, regardless of the time. And whenever you receive an alert, our solution immediately assigns a task to that endpoint and then starts performing the actions. Let's save this trigger. And in just a few steps, you're provided with this URL. Now let me go to QRadar. Let's log in. And this is made possible just like all the other CM solutions. It's mostly called actions. For example, in Splunk world, it's called post actions. And in QRadar, it's called custom actions. So when you go to the management console of QRadar, click admin. And then from the list that we'll see soon, scroll down a bit, define an action. So we already have this URL here that was provided by AIR. All we need to do is like take this URL and provide it to QRadar so that the integration is completed. Let's go back. Adding a new custom action here. We can give it a like random name, AIR integration, and a description if you wish. And then we have Bash, Perl, and Python. We already provide in our knowledge base, we already provide a script for this. So for now, we'll be choosing Bash. And then it's basically a simple script actually. So let me show you in our knowledge base. So it's only a few lines. Here we go. So by copying and saving it into an SH file on your desktop, you can quickly come back and select it. It's already in my desktop, so I'll select this. And from now on, we need to provide 4 parameters to the QRadar for it to understand which endpoint to react and which webhook target to send the data. So the first one is, let's take it here. We already list them here. So you'll take the AIR address. The parameter name is AIR address, and the URL for the management console is airdemo.binalyze.com. Edit. Third one is trigger name. This again depends on the trigger you use. As an example, we have QRadar trigger here. QRadar trigger. And then in the third one, we have token. It's also included in the URL we have. So let me copy it. And you configure it only once. So once the integration is completed, which again takes just 5 minutes, edit. So the most important parameter here, the most important variable here is which endpoint AIR will be responding to. And that's provided by QRadar. Let me go back to the last one. So it's endpoint. This one. And then we select network event property because this information will be separately provided for each offense that is created. That's how QRadar calls them. And we support a number of options here. You can provide the host name or you can provide the source IP. And adding it, now we have it ready. So whenever you create a rule for QRadar, by selecting this AIR integration as the custom action, you can quickly integrate it with AIR. And let me simulate the integration. So let's go back to our trigger page. Okay, so now we have the URL. Let me copy. And then it's just like QRadar calling us or any webhook source. Just clicking on it. And let me go back to endpoints page so we see if a task is assigned to the demo PC. And as you see, like it's immediately assigned to the endpoint. So think about QRadar or any other CM on the market, creating an alert at 3 a.m. in the morning when there's no one in the company. Still, you don't need anyone to respond to that incident. Our solution immediately goes to that endpoint and clicks starts collecting the evidence. And once you have people on site, then you can quickly ask them to click this view button, and then they can start the investigation. So that's all about this release. We also have some other parts about the upcoming one, but before that, we can start with the questions.
Thanks, Emre. That's really interesting. Also great to see so many people on the webinar today. So thank you all for coming. All shy, so no questions submitted, but I do have some to ask you, which we've been getting asked. We've been asked quite a lot recently. So the first one is, can we not use Active Directory for grouping endpoints? Why would the bulk endpoint solution be better than that?
No, actually, we support Active Directory for almost 2 years, so it's already in place. But the way to use it more efficiently, because in that case you need to contact to the domain admins, like you need to contact, and it's almost every time in a different department. So that's why without asking anyone, you can start using bulk actions, assign some tags to those endpoints. So even though, let me go back to the endpoints page. So even though we have, it's already completed, by the way. So when you integrate our solution with Active Directory, it's all the structure in Active Directory is reflected here, but it's read-only. Let me show in settings. So we have it here. When you enable it, our solution quickly syncs with the Active Directory and all the infrastructure, like all the like directory structure, like the domains, the organizational units, and all the other foldering is seen here. But it doesn't allow you to edit because it's read-only. By using bulk actions, you can perform actions on a number of endpoints without, even if they're in different groups, different organizational units in Active Directory. So it's still good to use Active Directory for grouping endpoints, but bulk actions and tags provide you a more fine-grained control for managing your endpoints.
Great. Okay, we've just had a question. So the next one is, what is your roadmap for integrations? Integrate with CM or source solutions, or based on customer requests? And that's
great.
Was there?
Great. So actually, we already have some integrations on our roadmap. As an example, we'll be in the upcoming version, we'll be integrating with Carbon Black and a number of other EVRs, because when it comes to visibility, our solution is by far the most comprehensive one on the market. So when you get an alert from your EVR, AIR is the best product on the market that can provide you an extensive visibility on the endpoint. And if you integrate this with any like EDR, CM, or SORA solution, then you automate this process. So we're already implementing some integrations with some EDR solutions. And also there's another CM, Alien Vault, that was requested by one of our US customers. But if they have, I mean, if you have any other feedback, we'd love to hear for the future.
Okay, question from Ikut. What's the maximum CPU usage in percentage of an AIR agent in a modern system? Great
question. Actually, internally, we generally say, not about the CPU, but memory usage. Our customers say AIR like mostly consumes more than a floppy disk, just a bit more than a floppy disk. So it's designed in a way to be really lightweight. It's extremely lightweight on the endpoint. And for CPU usage, we didn't receive any like feedback from our customers. But still, as we all know, when it comes to large enterprises, and I mean, our product is running on like really large networks that has more than 50,000 endpoints. When you have that many endpoints, there are a lot of compliance requirements. For that reason, we have added support in the previous version. We have added support for policies. So when you create a new policy, you can assign a CPU limit. And as I mentioned, I mean, AIR is really lightweight. It's extremely lightweight on the endpoint. But if you have any compliance requirements, let's say in some critical servers, you don't want any agent, and that's true for all the endpoint agents out there. You can limit it to, let's say, 50%. And this will be applied to all the endpoints. Let's say CPU limitation. Let me make a quick example. And then select the evidence repository if you like to apply other features, such as compression encryption. Next step. And you can select some, add some condition here. For example, if the endpoint name has like server, go to next step. And now there are no matching endpoints. So let me go back and provide you another one. So demo. This is the name. Okay, not equal. It should be contains. So now we have these endpoints here. When you click Save Policy, whenever you assign a task, regardless of the source, so even if you assign that task, even your CM assigns the task, so or it can be a scheduled task. We also have that feature. The endpoint agent will maximum consume 50% of the CPU. But as I mentioned, I mean, we don't have any issues. Like they're extremely lightweight and fast.
Okay, so the short answer, thanks for the question. The short answer is it's totally configurable. Next question, which I'm hearing more and more actually, is when will we have Mac support?
Actually, Mac support is getting ready, especially with the Linux support, because starting from the previous version, we started to port our endpoint agent to a cross-platform endpoint agent, and that also provided us with the capability to add Linux. So by the end of this year, we'll be also adding Mac support. It's also one of our priorities.
Great. And the last question from my side is, can we run triage on Linux for process memory?
Yeah, actually, the way to do it is when you create a triage rule, it's actually independent of the operating system. So when you create a triage rule, you select the searching property here. So if you select memory, just use some examples here, and then saving it, memory triage. Now it becomes available to any endpoint in your network. So let's go back to endpoints page and click on demo. When you click triage, now you can select this memory triage and example triage, let's say. And again, in triage also, as you've seen, so this endpoint matches with the policy, so it will be applied CPU limitation policy we have previously generated. Clicking start, the endpoint will immediately start. That's also one of the things we should highlight, because our endpoint agents are passive, so they don't consume any memory. We didn't validate it, sorry. I created the wrong one. Let's show it properly. So let's search for malware domain and string in memory, yeah. Sample triage. For those who doesn't know, we have a feature of like an extension of Yara, and we call it Yara Plus. So in Yara, in regular Yara, you can only search in the content of the file or in the process. But in our version, we also support adding context to those rules. And this is only supported in Windows, so that's why we got that error. So this is a normal rule. Now we'll be searching. Let me save it. Let's give it a different name. And then when we go back to endpoints, triage, sample triage rule. And then start. Now it will search that string in all process memory in the Linux endpoints. So the answer is yes.
Great. Okay. And we have another question from Shafiq.
Steve, by the way, sorry, before that, I'd like to show another feature that also really helps when it comes to triage. So we have a validation feature here. I think you can't see it, but let me make my window a bit smaller. Okay, here. So when you click validate rule, it also really helps, because when writing your rules, if you don't use an example, it will be a bit hard to validate it, and it takes too much time. I mean, if you don't validate it, then sending that rule to your endpoints may result in a validation error. So clicking this button really helps for making sure that the rule you wrote is validated.
And that button is always behind the screen share, so we should move it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And question from Shafiq is, do you support Spark, Solaris, Unix, ZFS file systems?
We currently have support for quite old Linux versions, but we don't support Solaris now or the other platforms. To be honest, we didn't get the feedback from our customers, because those products are mainly like mainframe products, the platform. So I mean, as I mentioned in the beginning, our agent is endpoint. Our endpoint agent is cross-platform. So if we receive enough requests, then we can also consider adding support for them. But for now, we support Windows and Linux, which is the top operating systems in enterprise environments.
Great. Mac support. We've covered Mac support. It'll be later on in the year, Shafiq.
Yeah, that's correct.
And he says, thank you. Thank you. Also, lots of people saying hi in the chat, so I won't reply to everyone, but hi to everyone. If there's any more questions, write them now. If not, we'll move on to the closing points. It seems that there isn't, so let's go on from there. So, as I said at the beginning, we're iterating really fast. I guess you guys have probably seen that forensics is becoming something of a hot topic within the wider cybersecurity space, and we have lots and lots of ideas in our roadmap, which we will be rolling out through the rest of this year. Next up for AIR, in the next release, we will include CSV imports for timeline. Emre, do you want to say anything on that one?
Yeah. So the great thing about timeline IR, we have a really unique feature that lets you create a timeline of an endpoint or a number of endpoints in just 5 to 10 minutes. But now we are extending that timeline with the additional support for CSV files. So basically, you'll be able to enrich that information with any type of CSV file. This could be firewall logs. This could be some other product CSV. And another feature of CSV import is we'll be adding, we are in the process of adding, so it will be in 3 to 4 weeks. We also provide some CSV import profiles. When you map a CSV file when you use a CSV file for enriching the timeline, in the next investigation, without any requirement of mapping individual columns to timeline properties, you'll be able to quickly select the import profile. And as an example, we'll be adding support for Office 365, or let's say Azure storage or AWS logs. So you'll be using CSV import for quickly enriching the timeline. And the other great feature that really excites us is AIR already supports triaging on endpoints, and we have some features such as when you have a match on a file or on a process file, you can collect them by attaching a collect. So let me quickly show that feature. So if you add a tag here as collect, if you have a match in the process or file, this file will be automatically collected, added to the acquisition. This proved to be really useful for our customers, but now we are extending this feature. So think about being able to add some playbook actions. So whenever you have a match, you will be able to collect that file. If it's a process, you'll be able to dump that process. for further investigation. And then you'll be able to kill the process, delete the file, and isolate the machine. And these are all playbook actions, so you can individually add them to the playbooks. And whenever you have a match on an endpoint or a number of endpoints, you'll be able to perform all these actions in the order you would like. And with this feature, we are actually coming closer to covering all these steps of incident response, including the containment, as we have introduced recently, like endpoint isolation, and even like eradication, deleting the malicious files, like cleaning web shells, and then creating a timeline automatically. So without taking, if you integrate AIR with, especially with your CM and SOAR, so whenever you see an alert, like everything listed in this playbook actions will be automatically performed. So it's a huge lifesaver. And once you have the timeline, then you can also shut down the machine and start the investigation while the case is contained, let's say.
Exciting indeed. However, not as exciting, in my opinion,
I agree.
the next release. Before I get into that, I can see Shafak is okay. Thank you, Shafak. I appreciate the feedback.
Thanks a lot.
In 2 weeks today, so on the 12th of May, we will be releasing a brand new product called Drone. There is a link at the top of the chat to register for that launch event and also to request beta access to the product, which will be available from the 13th, so the day after. Emre, just quickly as we close up, can you tell us the challenge that Drone is set to take care of and how the solution is going to work?
I would love to. So the challenge, I mean, the digital forensics is 40 years old, Steve, as you know. And the old methodology, all the approach we have right now is also 40 years old. And the problem or the challenge, let's say, the problem we have is we have an insufficient approach. And the insufficiency is coming from, like all the industry is focusing on prevention only. And now we have recently started talking about, the industry recently started talking about forensic readiness. And like we started to talking about anomaly scans. So even if you have all the endpoint security solutions, all the like security measures taken in your environment, you still need to perform regular anomaly scans. And baseline analysis is a really tough job because when you have a ground truth, and which I'll be mentioning in a minute, when you have something to compare, then it would be really easy to compare. But the way we take this problem is we are trying to detect some stuff, and which is mostly malicious code. And also, if you find something, it's really hard to search on the forensic data. And also, we're performing this in a fully remote way. Also brings forensic readiness because when you receive an alert, even for, it's called precursors. So you need to validate if it's false alarm or a real one. So we should accept the fact that there will be a breach. And the important fact is, how will you respond to it? Are you cyber resilient? And when you have an alert, can you investigate that alert like in the fastest possible time? And then can you recover quickly? So these are actually the definition of challenge. And our solution to this challenge is we'll be providing Drone for a fully remote endpoint assessment. It's ultra fast and it can perform early case assessment in a completely remote manner. So this way you can automate the compromise assessment. So rather than trying to search the needle in the haystack, you can quickly ask. It's just like having a 20 years, 30 years of experience in the field and being able to show the case report you collect from an endpoint to a really experienced person and asking him to highlight the important parts of that case report. And it can also detect anomalies on the endpoint forensic data. And the way it tackles with this problem is just because we have extensive information, extensive visibility from the endpoint, we have a forensic snapshot of that endpoint. So using this snapshot, we can perform a lot of innovative ideas. even comparing that snapshot to a previous one, or even a really long dream of our team, you can even compare that to your golden image. So, and that way you can get rid of all the noise that you have and focus on the important parts. And another great feature, we support Sigma roles. So you'll be able to scan all the publicly available Sigma roles on a live endpoint, and it will highly decrease the preliminary analysis time. So it's in just like a few minutes, you'll be done with the analysis. And also another great feature, even if you don't have enough experience, you will still be able to make informed decisions. So it's like a support decision system. And I don't want to give more information. We should make our customers, make our users wait for the event, for the live demo.
Let's keep the suspense for the 12th of May. But obviously, you're all invited to that event, and we would love to see you join us again in 2 weeks' time for what I believe is going to be quite an impressive product launch. So thank you again for all of you for attending. Hope you found it useful. This will happen again at the next release, which we expect to be in around 4 weeks' time. So please join us again. And before we finish, Ben is typing.
We can have more questions.
Ben is typing to say thank you. So I think everyone's going to maybe type if there's any questions. It looks like there is not, just lots of thank yous. Okay, guys, we'll finish up there. If you do have any questions, then you can send them to support@binalyze.com, and we will get straight back to you with the answers. So once again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks a lot.